Well, Andrew and Norine are with us. We ended that with you praying for the president. Take us there. What was that moment like for you?
Surreal. A great honor.
I guess that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
Here you've gone from jail to here you're right next to the president. As I understand it, Andrew, you were sitting in the same chair that Erdogan was sitting in when President Trump asked him to release you.
Yes, I thought that was very interesting.
And it took a year from that
Yes, a little more than that, yes. Almost 17 months or so, I think. And then to be sitting in the same chair, I thought that was an interesting thing God did.
All right. Norine, you had a dream, right? Mm-hmm. And in the dream, you were going to be praying for the president. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the dream.
He was in an armchair, and actually I'd been praying Isaiah 11 over him because I knew he was involved, the administration was involved in our case. But I had a dream in which I had an opportunity, he was right there, and to pray for him, but it was thwarted. I couldn't remember the words. I said, bring me a Bible. It was too small. I couldn't read it. It was in a different language. There were so many attempts that were thwarted that when I woke up from my dream, I felt more determined than ever. I thought, I need to be praying this over him. So I pray this over him every day, and when we had a chance to do in person, that was wonderful.
Do you think you surprised him?
Probably.
I will say in my life, I've never seen that there. I've seen people pray over presidents, but in that environment with all the cameras and everything going on, for you to take a knee and pray for the president.
Well, we asked him, and we were very glad that he responded positively and allowed us to do that, yes.
Now, you were reading from notes.
When we were flying over on the Air Force plane with Tony Perkins, I asked Tony Perkins, since he's met the president, do you think the president would be okay with us praying for him? Is it okay if I lay hands on him, or will the Secret Service tackle me? And he said,
Russell, you to the ground.
And he said, this president isn't like that. He's very welcoming for prayer. And so I wrote some notes down. I actually have them in my pocket here. So it was just on the spur of the moment, and we wrote some things we wanted to make sure I thought if I'm in the Oval Office, I'm going to be very nervous and forget everything. Yeah. So we want to make sure we thank him for what he's done, for fighting for us, for sending a plane to get us, for the letter he wrote to us. And then I just scribbled the things I wanted to pray for him.
Now, so did Norine's dream encourage you?
Yes, and it was her idea, I think, and then we prayed together before we went to the Oval Office. We prayed, Lord, give us the opportunity to pray for this president and to even lay hands on him, because we believe in impartation, and just to ask God to give us that opportunity to impart blessing.
Well, let's go from the surreal to what it was really like in a prison cell in Turkey. You both were in that cell for 13 days, and then Norine got released, and here you are, and you go into solitary confinement. What was that like? Take us there. What's a day in a Turkish jail like?
Well, in solitary confinement, it's me and a bed and nothing else. No reading materials, no writing materials. So it's 24 hours with nothing to do, and it was that was very frightening. And but also knowing the situation I'm in, where I'm being held. I don't know why I'm being held, but we know that it's serious because this is not the way that Americans are usually treated. So we didn't know how long I would be held. And so there was a lot of fear. And what really helped me is somehow a booklet from Mike Bickle from IHOP Kansas City got into me through a guard. Somehow they missed it. And it had prayer points. And so for hours...
A guard delivered you a booklet from America?
Yeah, so it was brought to the prison, and somehow to the detention center, and somehow it got in. Yeah. And we just think that God allowed that. Yeah. And so there were prayer points, and I went through those. It had a few verses. I was so hungry for any verses from Scripture, and this had verses to pray through. And so I spent hours every day just pacing back and forth in that room, my heart pouring out to the Lord and praying over these points and asking for intimacy with Him, for fellowship with Him. One of the things that I really focused on was to be found worthy at the end, to stand before the Lord. That was one of the prayer points. Lord, give me the strength, the endurance, so that so that I'm not ashamed or am full of regrets at the end of this race.
Norine, did you know he was in solitary confinement?
Yes, I knew he was being held. This was before the prison. This was before he was in an official prison.
held in 5 places, so each one was different.
Each one was
That's why
different.
it's a little confusing when we do these interviews.
All right, so there's a whole journey.
Yes.
5. I didn't know it was 5 prisons. I thought it was like
Different
2.
kinds of
Detention
areas.
center.
Yes.
Different kinds of areas.
Yes.
So what's going through your mind through all of this? What are you praying?
I had the prophetic words that we've been given, praying through them, claiming them, hoping that they're from the Lord.
Now, some viewers may not understand what you mean by prophetic words. So what was going on? Were people calling you with these?
You know, the ones that were particularly powerful were the ones that were given before any of this started, just to be honest. So a lot of promises from the Lord. They have not been fulfilled yet. So they're still coming.
Okay.
Trying to hold on to that.
What was the number one for you?
I can tell you one that helped me that wasn't a prophetic word, but a few days before we were arrested, just suddenly the thought came into my mind, it's time to come home. And I thought, this can't be right, because Turkey is my home, and I didn't think about the U.S. I thought maybe God was saying it's time for you to come home to heaven. I thought, but wait,
yeah,
Lord,
you can interpret that one a lot of different ways.
There's still all of these prophetic words that haven't been fulfilled. It can't be my time to go. But I heard several times over several days, it's time to come home. And then when we were arrested, I thought, oh, is this what it means, that you're taking us back to the States? But then it stretched on for 2 years, and I say, Lord, didn't have some sense of immediacy, of timing? It's time to come home now? So that was one thing I held on to that I believe was from God. It's time to come home, and I kept claiming that. Lord, you said you'd take me home.
I think it was more a matter of the timing. Some of these things will happen, but when?
When?
Could it be 5, 10 years? We didn't know.
How long will I be in prison? Will I be released eventually? We believe so, but how long?
But you still held on to it.
Tried to.
Tried to.
Tried to.
Fight through.
Tried to, yes.
From a day-to-day standpoint, here you are, you're trying to look out for your husband. Your children are back in the States. What was that like for you?
It was difficult. I was really divided. My heart was in 2 places. There were a number of people who suggested that I really should leave the country. I prayed into that.
She stayed at some risk to herself.
But I said, Lord, if I do need to leave, because it won't help anyone if we're both arrested, then I can't help anyone. I can't help my children or him. Then I said, Lord, then let me know.
I'll confess, I was one of the voices that said,
okay, I didn't realize that.
You could be a bargaining chip if they want. If this thing escalates, if you're still in Turkey, you now become a bargaining chip.
So I prayed and I said, Lord, if you want me to go, then show me clearly. And very clearly. I mean, not just some vague impression. I just need to hear it really clearly from you. And if I don't get that, I will remain here. I think it was very important for him. I think it was important for our church as well. It was difficult for the church. It's a difficult time. So I think it was my being there, just present, was helpful.
Well, that's an untold story. You guys had pioneered a church in Izmir. What happened to the church?
Some people left. There was fear, a lot of media.
Yeah,
that was difficult. It was a difficult time.
It's become the most infamous church in the country.
In Turkey.
Yeah.
What's happening with it today?
There's pressure. There's a lot of media attention. And so that's why we are trying to be very careful, because we have many friends in Turkey and we want to bless Turkey.
Now your children back here, they start getting involved in the process too, and Jacqueline in particular.
Jacqueline was the face of the family, the beautiful face.
And she came forward and was really strong.
Yes. And the Lord had spoken about that some years ago too, that she would speak out for truth. I haven't found the exact wording, but the idea was she was going to speak out publicly for truth. We didn't imagine it would be in this way.
Yeah, she ended up at the UN.
She did.
Yes.
Testifying on your behalf.
Yeah.
Yes.
How proud are you of her right now?
We're very proud. And she did it at a very young age. She was 20 when she was doing that. So, yes, we're very proud of her.
All right. One of the things I think your story highlights is the dangers missionaries face, particularly in the Muslim world or in restricted access countries. What would you tell somebody today who's thinking about this? They feel a call to go and to be a part of it. What would you say to them?
If they feel a call, go.
No hesitation?
Not if there's a calling.
It's a matter of
Yeah.
obedience, but also counting the cost. I suggest to people usually count the cost, think of what could happen, then surrender that to the Lord, and probably nothing bad will happen. Most people don't have this kind of thing happen to them, but there are risks. And this is pretty normal in many countries. Many countries, there is persecution. And so we need to be willing to count the cost and serve God in this way.
I think here in the West, we're kind of behind. There are many people who are used to persecution. We're just learning. We're just at the very beginning of learning about all this. But in the end, we will not regret it.
Yeah, there's a whole point of dying to self that I think, because we're not facing that on a regular basis, actually, because of some experiences I had in India, I believe persecution produces better Christians. You sort of get past that. Are you past that now?
No.
Because there's this dying to self daily part. Yeah. You think you're done, but no, there's more.
I had to go through, every day I had to fight through to some level of victory. And then the next day I had to start over again. Obviously there's an accumulation, but every day I had to fight again. So it's a daily dying to self, being willing to, Jesus says in, I think it's John 18:12, shall I not drink the cup that the Father has given me? And it's a rhetorical question. The answer is yes. And so this is what I was praying, Lord. I'm tired of drinking the cup, but shall I not drink the cup that you have prepared for me? Give me the strength to keep drinking until I've drunk the whole thing, because I don't want to miss out on anything that you have planned for me. But that's a daily battle I had to fight.
I've talked to people who've been in prison for their faith. Some of them, to my amazement, said if they had to do it, they would do it again. Would you do it again?
In hindsight, yes. While I was going through it, I was saying, oh God, I just can't keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the difficulty is if Jesus had said to me at the beginning, I want you to go to prison for 2 years and I'm going to use this for my purposes, I'd say, okay. But when I'm in it, I don't know that it's 2 years. They wanted to give me 3 aggravated life sentences, which means solitary confinement for the rest of my life. Am I going to see my children again? So after the test is done, I look back and I think, oh, yes, I do it again. I have no regrets. But while I was going through it, not knowing when it will end, that's when the real testing is.
Did you have moments of despair?
Yes, very many.
Did you know that?
Oh, yes.
So in your conversations, you'd have weekly conversations,
And he wrote
you'd hear
letters.
it.
Yeah, he wrote letters, and he just, I said, pour out your heart to me. You don't need to pass all this on to the kids, but tell me everything. He needed to be able to write everything that he was feeling and thinking.
What would that do to you?
I mean, it was incredibly painful. We're very close. We are, just to see him suffering in the way he was suffering, and I was very limited in what I could do for him. Yeah.
For me, the isolation, I didn't have any believers with me in prison. So I can get wrong thoughts, confusing thoughts, go off in wrong directions. And Norine had the weight of coming in every week and correcting, sometimes rebuking me.
Not too much.
But and I needed it.
That's okay.
And just telling me, you need to be strong, you need to keep going. And all carrying that weight of encouraging me every week, of giving me something that would sustain me spiritually for the week ahead.
How would you pray for those meetings?
I would ask the Lord to give me something every week. I said, Lord, what can I bring to him today? What can I impart? What is it you want to focus on today? And yes, I would prepare a whole sheet of anything that was going on just diplomatically, any news, any encouraging words, if people were sending in words that were very relevant to
You were
situation.
the news service.
But she also came in with a view to impartation. So we would put our hands up and the glass that's separating us, we're talking by phone. Put your hand up. And then she would start our time together with the impartation for that week. She would come in with that mindset. I'm coming to impart either joy or peace or strength or whatever God was placing on her heart, and impart that to me through the glass.
Would you go through it again?
Yes. Especially since I know how it ended.
You know how it ended.
Yeah.
So for the joy, yes.
Yeah.
We have no regrets. We believe God is going to use this. And all of the prayers that have gone up around the world, we think we're a very small part of this, that God is doing something much larger. And all of this prayer is going into the Middle East, and it's going to bring a harvest.
Well, you now have an open door to talk to not just restricted access countries, but also to the missionary community from a very personal level to encourage them. And whether that's the Chinese missionary community, the American missionary community, the Korean missionary community, the Filipino. I see you guys raising up missionaries to take it on. Yeah, your story is going to live for a long time. Thank you for being with us. We're out of time. We could talk for a long time, but if you want to hear more of their story, you can watch a social media exclusive interview on our Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/700 Club Interactive.